So welcome to the day 10 session of Selenium with C Sharp. We are going to today discuss about the concept of database, MySQL and the NUnit framework. So basically SQL stands for Structured Query Language. It allows us to create, manipulate and access database. A database is a collection of tables, whereas a table is a collection of records. SQL can execute queries against a database and retrieve data from a database. It can basically insert, update and delete records as well. Now, I believe you have already installed the MySQL client, which I have sent you on your system. And sorry, not the MySQL client, the MySQL server and the MySQL workbench. You have installed them on your system. You have installed, good. So in basically MySQL, we will be using something called as the MySQL data.mysql client, which will be, we will be creating basically MySQL client with the Selenium C, with the C hash, and the objects which we will be creating are connection, query, command and data reader. So what we are going to create is a C hash client for MySQL. So the connection object we have to create. Then we have to create the command query. And data reader object. So basically the connection object where we pass the username, password information and where the database is hosted and what is the name of the database is the connection object we create. Then we create our SQL query for execution. Then we run it with the command and what we get returned is a object of data reader. Yes, Sajid, you have a question? Yeah, go ahead and ask.
So before going here, I just want to have a few questions on the last topic. So anyway, I have done that same. So we are able to do form model. I tried in Mercury and even the current file administration. So both are fine. So I tried in C Sharp and both looks good. I was able to execute. So all are good. So a few questions. What I want to know, what is Page Factory? Pallavi?
Sajid, your voice is breaking pretty bad. If you want, can you give me a call? Will that be okay with you?
Okay.
Or if the call is very heavy, then you can just call me on Skype, whichever is cheaper for you, because your voice is breaking too bad.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I'll be putting you on mute, okay? I just cannot hear you. Okay, you can post your question here. So Page Factory is basically a way of implementing page object model. Okay, that is what Page Factory is. It's basically you have this uh, the how to and find bys. So it is basically a way to implement page object model. What we created in here was page factory. There is another way to implement the page object model where we do not use this concept of page factory. What we have learned was page factory. So generally this is a more better way of implementing page object model. Now, what page factory contains is basically we segregate the page in concept of that the page contains objects and the objects will be having some function. So we segregate the page function from the objects. That's what the concept of page factory or page object model is. Like here, you have created this object to be identified by using a locator technique. How you want to find an object, using what value, and this is the method which this is the function which will be performed in the object, on the object. Similarly this. So this is what page factory is. You model the page elements and you separate the page object locators, the object information from the functions of the page. You create these locator objects and you create the functions which are to be performed on this object. And you initialize the page by passing the driver object from the class going to call this page factory. Yeah, go ahead. Excel we will talk about, Sajid. Today we have started actually now talking about the other dealing with other artifacts. So our Selenium is over. We have now started talking about like this MySQL, then NUnit framework. The next is we talk about framework elements like how do we start logs, how do we read from Excel, how do we take a screenshot. And then how do we design the test case using an unit framework? So all this we will be now starting talking, and hopefully, if not this week because we cancelled a class, then maybe next week one class should be the end of the course where we talk about hybrid framework implementation. Okay. So basically we were discussing about MySQL. So what you should have a basically a data base created in your SQL, MySQL, and you should have a table created. So in case you are not aware, you can basically use something called as MySQL Workbench. So you have to, once you have launched the MySQL Workbench, you have to log into your database, give it a connection. So database, connect to database. Here you have to provide the password information. Okay. Now we create a new query structure. So on this database we can go ahead and use command like create database. Then we say use. Execute these two queries. Then create table. Provide the columns. The type of the columns. Execute this query. Then we say insert into student values. The values are so on and so forth. And then we say select star from student and you run this query. So here you will get the output. Okay, so there are two rows with three columns and this is how you get the output. Now the same thing we are going to do with MySQL. So what we do is we first create a connection object. Then we create these strings, server, database, UID and password. Then we create this server information, the database. So let's say we want to change the database to C# DB. UID is user ID, password is this. Then we create our connection string. Then select star from here the name of the table student. You create this connection object by saying new MySQL connection, passing the connection string. Then you say connection dot open to open the connection handle. Then you create your query, select star from student, and you create the list which will store the result. So the result stored which will be fetched contains two rows. Now you create your command object. So we say MySQL command is equal to new MySQL command. We pass the query object and the connection object. And when we say command dot execute reader, you have lot of command dot option. Okay, it is just not execute reader. There are lots of options available in here. So one of the option we are going to use is execute reader because it is going to return back us a value. If no value is returned back, then you use another command. Data reader. Now while the data reader reads, here I am going to fetch the value. So SID, SNAME and SMarks, right? These are the columns in my table and they will get printed. Then this is important. Closing the data reader, closing the connection object. So that we do not unnecessarily create any discrepancies in the database. That's why the database handle which we have created should be closed. Sorry about that. The package name was incorrect. So running this program, when we execute this program, it will create a connection object with the query, with the connection string which we have given. Then it will run the query against the table. It will fetch what we call as the reader object, which we will traverse through to print the different column values. So the select query which we ran on SQL client is the same output where we have executed it here. Okay. So if you have any question, let me know. So if you have a table which has got two columns, username and password, which has got these data information, you can now write down a program, right, where you are fetching the information from the database and you parameterize your login logout scenario. And so your login logout scenario is actually executing with the user information, user and password information from the database. Is that right? Okay, good. So this is about database. Now the next concept which we are going to talk about is basically the concept of the NUnit framework. The purpose of NUnit framework is that it is a unit test framework for all .NET languages. It was initially ported from the JUnit, which is the unit test framework for Java programming language. The main website is nunit.org, and to work with NUnit, we have to install the package from NuGet Package Manager. So I would request you to do it with me so that you have created one test using the NUnit framework. Right click, go to this package manager and search for NUnit. Once you have, so there are two things you will require, NUnit and NUnit test adapter. So NUnit 3 test adapter and NUnit. Install these two on your system. Once you are done with it, NUnit and NUnit 3 test adapter. Let me know when you are done. Okay, good. So now let's try to write down our program, but before that, let's try to understand the framework structure. So like in JUnit, you have got before annotation, test annotation, and after. Here you have got also some annotation. So setup is generally used for initialization purpose. Any code that is initialized or set prior to executing a test is functions is marked with this attribute. Ignore is if there is any section of the code which you don't want it to execute, you put it in the ignore block. Then you have test fixture. The class which is to be tested using NUnit should be decorated with text fixture. Test is basically the method which we want to test. Okay, so we identify this test in the text explorer. Tear down is basically same as after annotation. Here we write down things which we want to happen once we are done with the executing the test and we are doing the cleanup process. So the login logout scenario we are going to put with the NUnit. For that, what we do is we take the Selenium IDE recorded login logout script and export that script as a C# NUnit test. This is what we are going to do so that we get that entire code and work with it. So file, export test case as C# NUnit WebDriver. This is how we will export the test case. This will save the file using the .cs extension. Open it with Notepad or WordPad. So once you have opened this program, let's just try to read it. This class is decorated as test fixture, telling us that this is a test class. Okay, these are the NUnit framework using which we have to import. Then here we have declared our variables. Then in the setup method, we have initialized our driver object base URL. Then we have got the tear down where we are basically saying driver.quit. And we have got in here the actual test method where we are written down the steps to execute the code. Okay. And some methods like is element present, is alert present, etc. etc. So the same structure code which we are going to write in here is so this is our login logout test. It is decorated with the text fixture. Then these are the variables which we have declared. The setup where we initialize it to be a Firefox driver. The test method. Assertions I'll just explain and the tear down. So now to run this we have to go to something called as a test explorer. The test explorer will search for the methods which are available in here. So the login logout test is the name of this test method. So it will basically search for the test methods. Here now I am going to say run the selected test. So when I click on play, this will basically run this selected test using the NUnit framework. So this is the login logout implemented, but implemented using the NUnit framework. You have to go to this test explorer, Sajid, and it will search for the tests available in your system. So what I would suggest you to do is I'm making you the presenter. Go ahead, export the login logout test as a C# NUnit test, and then we are going to see how do we run it on your system. So go ahead, first allow you to be made as a presenter, and then export this test of the login logout as C# NUnit. Mm. You have installed NUnit test adapter, right? Then it should detect it. This is what we do. We just go to Text Explorer, it will detect the test scenario and it will run it. But it is not detecting for you. Wonder why. Okay, we will see that a little later as to why is it not running. I'll share some links with you. Just try it on your end. The last topic for today is how we can take screenshot. So there is an interface available called as I take screenshot, which can be combined with the driver object, and there is a method called as get screenshot. Using this method, the current page screenshot is taken and it is saved in the screenshot object. And then we say save file. So this screenshot object which has been created is saved as a JPEG file. And if we have taken an invalid screenshot, then it will be saved as an invalid user JPEG. So let's say I run this program for this method, the screenshot login logout. So if I have passed the bad username and password, it will basically go to the invalid user if condition and it will basically take the invalid user screenshot. So in the D drive, the invalid user screenshot is stored here. So this is the screenshot it has captured for the invalid user. Okay, and the test has failed with the message login not successful. Let's just restart your test video. You have installed NUnit adapter, right? NUnit test adapter, you have installed it, both of them, right? Hi Sajid, have you installed both NUnit and NUnit test adapter?
Welcome to the Foods layer. Today we will learn how to create and run an unit test.
Hello? Sajid? Okay. Can you close and launch your Visual Studio again? Sajid, I'll be using your system's mouse. You please don't use it, okay? Let me see the problem.
Yeah.
So you have to install the NUnit 3 test adapter like I showed you, and then you have to open this test explorer from this test windows. It will open the test explorer, and this you click on run all, so it will detect this test available on your system. Does it make sense how I have done it? You have to install the right package. and Unit 3 test adapter. Once that is installed, then go to Tools, Test, Windows Explorer. In Windows, you open Test Explorer, it will click on Run All, it will detect the test on your projects, in your project. Is it clear, Sajid?
Yes.
Okay. So that's all we have for today. As an assignment, try to create, I'm putting it here only. You can either export it, that's up to you. But for byproduct, create the test using NUnit framework. Okay. Use proper assertion, sync, etc. So this is the only assignment problem for today. Okay, Sajid?
Okay.
So capture screenshot, for example, product is available or not available. So for different validation, capture your screenshots, or for error condition, capture your screenshots. Any question? Okay, so I will see you tomorrow then, Sajid, where we will be discussing more on C# concepts. So see you tomorrow then. That's all we have for today. Thank you. Bye.